Hello and welcome back to another FPL Tom live stream. Hopefully you can all hear us because usually on this show everything goes completely wrong. But hopefully you can hear our voices, you can see everything on screen and it's all going to plan. Jake, how are you, my friend?
To be fair, I'm joking, but here we go. Like, we'll only find out in a second that it's not working. But yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. How about
Good.
yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm getting hyped for the season. Things are starting to pick up. It's kind of that little bit of a buzz in the stomach. You just starting to feel it. Football's back. Proper football is back this weekend. League Two, none of this Premier League muck. Proper football's back this weekend, and then the Premier League kind of kicks in, and FPL and all that other kind of football. Not the real stuff.
Exactly. The
Yeah.
stuff we care about.
Yeah, lower league football. That's it. Get yourself down to a game. It's working. Hallelujah. Thank you to the people in the chat. We are up. We are running. And you know what? The new graphics on the stream as well. What do you think of them people? Because they're looking pretty fit. You know,
Yeah, hey, I like them.
we've done some behind the scenes work. We're big
What's
time.
the what's that bird doing though for Twitter?
Well, this is the thing. I made it, and then bloody Elon decided I'm gonna make it an X now. So I can't be asked.
It's gonna look like it's gonna take a lot of time to get over the fact that it look like you're streaming some OnlyFans or
Oh yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, after last week's stream with the dirty draft picks, you know,
Oh, those soapy draft picks.
it is when this channel gets to the point where I'm just doing OnlyFans content for FPL.
Oh gosh.
Just like,
It's
oh,
actually maybe there's a market there,
I
Tom.
reckon there
Maybe.
might be, like team reveal, and it's just covering my private bits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I like this.
yeah, yeah.
Well, that's for another time anyway.
Yeah, that is for another time. In today's stream, we are going to be reviewing our updated drafts. Yeah, I think we should just get started, to be honest. Jake, we're going to start with your draft first.
Oh, Udoji, yeah, I'm not too sure, yeah. Yeah, sounds so. Yeah, of course. We just mentioned Benson as I think we joked about the first time I brought that. Oh, you're right. Have you not unmuted me? Hey, you noticed immediately, to be fair to you. That's not good.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Oh, dear, dear, dear. It's never simple on this. It's never simple, is it? There's never anything that goes like completely right. Just people are watching going, absolute jokers. Absolute jokers. I should have sound now, to be honest, guys. If I don't, then I don't know what's going off. But yeah, Jake has sound, so you can talk for your team, Jake.
Sound all right. Well, yeah. So I'm just looking at the team that I used to have, and yeah, I think originally I had Jason Steele in goal. I think I was kind of spoken out of that in our conversations with the drama that's going on with goalkeepers with Brighton and Brentford,
Yeah.
because they've just got a few too many decent options. Steele, I do feel Steele would start if I was to put my money where my mouth is on that. I think I would back Steele to start the season for Brighton, but with them signing such a solid goalkeeper from the Bundesliga with the stats that we saw last week, um, I wouldn't be like, oh, how dare they drop Steele? I think I'd be surprised because of how well he ended the season. But then, what are you doing signing such a decent bit of competition? Because someone's going to be unhappy there if they're sat on the bench at the start of the season, aren't they?
True.
So, so yeah, so I've moved for Onana because I know he'll start the season. I like that they've got a decent start to the season. I think there may be one tricky game over the first three or four, but especially home to Wolves, I feel like that's. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but I would if I were going to say someone's going to get a clean sheet. I think Man United are probably more likely than anyone.
Yeah.
Maybe Manchester City, of course. But that being said, City liked to concede last season despite pummeling teams. United were good at the back, I must say. On the whole, they didn't concede too many. They just, when they conceded one, they'd concede 6 or 7 in some certain situations. But when they did seem to be quite good at the back and of course De Gea got the Golden Glove, so
Yeah.
that just goes to my point. So yeah, I've gone for Shaw and Onana, doubled up at the back for United, so that could be a gold mine, could be a big mistake, who knows. Udogie is just me just being weird because everyone's gone for Pedro Porro.
Yeah.
Udogie may not even start the season, who knows, because there are a few options at that left wing back position, but Udogie does look like someone that would maybe be a good long-term left wing-back role for Spurs. So it'd be nice to see him start the season, but that is a risk I've gone for. Trent, of course, don't need to go into that. Don't need to go into Salah too much as that might be a little bit of an issue. It's not changed. I've kept Gibbs White, kept Mblemo. I've also gone for Trossard, who I was oohing and ahhing over when we originally did it, and I remember last minute putting McAllister in.
Yeah.
For whatever reason in my head, I've gone back to Trossard. I know Liverpool played Bayern Munich today in a friendly, and McAllister actually limped off with an injury. So it may be a blessing in disguise, that, for my fantasy. But it may be irrelevant anyway, because I don't know if Trossard will even start the season. I just think he looked quite bright in the games that I've seen highlights of in pre-season. And then, yeah, up front, pretty similar. The only real change is I've gone for João Pedro instead of Solanke. João Pedro, he's the number 9. It looks like Undav's leaving. Has he left yet or not?
Yeah, he's going out on loan to Stuttgart.
Sound. So there's only really João Pedro and Evan Ferguson now.
Whoa, can't forget that guy Welbs. Come on now.
You know what, to be fair, okay, fair enough. But I think the main thing is Pedro is number 9. They've paid a decent amount of money for him, and he's had a bright pre-season, especially bringing that Chelsea, really good Chelsea encounter. I think it finished like 4-3 or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was a 3 or something like that. But he was involved in every goal Brighton scored, I swear. So he looked really good, and then yeah, I've got a fairly similar bench. There's not as much as I've changed players throughout it. The whole spine of the team is pretty similar to what I started off with. I think maybe it's something where I may regret the fact that I've gone so heavily for Liverpool, of course, with Trent and Salah starting the season, because who knows what Liverpool turns up and who knows what Chelsea side turns up. But I think we've mentioned it. I think at the end of the day with Salah, I'm in the position where I may be behind a little bit, but it gives me that money maybe to catch up in the following weeks if I were to sacrifice Salah should he not start the season too brightly.
Yeah, definitely. I really like João Pedro as a pick. I've been flirting with him myself, putting him in a few drafts. I think Undav leaving makes him such a better asset in terms of like minutes, because in pre-season he's kind of been playing the 10 role, which Undav and McAllister and Pascal Gross kind of passed round last season. Obviously, if 2 of them go, I imagine Gross is going to be a little bit further back in the 6 or the 8. So you imagine, obviously, paying the big money, giving him the number 9 shirt. I think that means that he's going to play. He's at a very cheap price, isn't he, as well, at 5.5?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, so I'm content with my team. Maybe there'll be the odd change. I think most likely to leave maybe could be someone like a Trossard, just for someone that will definitely start the season. But he's definitely on my radar. I don't think there's anyone in that in the 15 that like I've had to choose for the squad that I wouldn't consider bringing back if I were to get rid of them for game week 1. So I'm content with it.
Yeah, a few questions I had, just wanted to raise with you. Both Morris and Benson blank in game week 2 as Luton's game's been suspended. Is that maybe something you'd think about? Because you are only going to be down to 1 potential sub coming in for that game.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good point. to raise. The only thing I would say is if I'm going to commit to those two players, which I do think I am out of all of them over the majority of the season, I do think there's a chance I may just take that hit and hope that no one needs to come off the bench, or if one person does come off the bench, I've got that player to rely on, purely because of just how cheap those two options are. So it's not like I'm going to really. I feel like I would just be taking a Benson or a Morris out, only to bring another substitution, another substitute player on. So it's not really benefiting the team if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, I get your point. Good point. I think I'm going to keep those two players regardless.
Yeah, that makes sense. My only other query I had was Leno. You imagine you're probably going to play Onana most weeks, so is it worth maybe dropping him down and getting like a 4 million goalkeeper and having that extra 0.5 kicking about?
Yeah, probably. I don't think that's a bad point. I haven't actually put the two sets of fixtures together. Maybe if Fulham have a decent game when United have a bit of a tricky away day, I might be more tempted to keep him in. I think that's kind of the idea I like to go for, just to have someone that's not terrible in goal, just to bring him in and out now and again. But you are right. I do think I back United to be quite good defensively this season, but um, which would bring the conclusion maybe that it is worth bringing someone in that's a little bit cheaper, but that may reduce the chances of me being able to rotate when I feel it's likely United will concede. Um, I guess the fact that I've gone for a double defence for United as well maybe just makes me reluctant to take Leno out, but it's definitely something to have a look at. I think it depends on how the fixtures line up. If Fulham's good games are coinciding with United's good games, then it's really not worth me having him in. But if, say, United are away to Spurs and Fulham are home to Luton, I may be more inclined to just drop Onana to the bench for that game and see what Leno can do. But if I were to take Leno out, maybe I'll bring someone that is, without even saving any money, and may bring someone in that does have fixtures that coincide nicely with United's more trickier games. But it's something to look at.
With Salah being in your team, would you say he is going to be the player that you're going to captain in game week 2? Obviously, Haaland has Newcastle. Salah has Bournemouth at home. Is that kind of the thought process you're going for?
I would have thought so. I don't think I've actually gone that far ahead, I must say. With my captaincy choices, I think I like to look at how the team's going to line up for the first few games. But for captaincy choices, I feel like it's one of those things where Haaland's going to be captain bar an anomaly. And now that you've raised the fact that it's a Newcastle City game and it's a Liverpool Bournemouth game at Anfield, like, yeah, that would make sense to change the captain up to Salah. I guess it just depends on how the season starts. Salah scored on the opening day for God knows how many seasons, and Haaland broke all the records. So I think it just depends how they both start the season. If Haaland goes and scores a hat-trick first game of the season, I may keep him as captain. As much as it may be a strange thing to do, it may just be one of those things where I don't think Salah actually played as well against Chelsea or something. I think though, overall, I think it does make sense to have him as captain at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah, it's a super strong fixture. Liverpool don't lose many games at home, do they? They're a very dominant team. My only concern, and I've seen this raised by a few people on Twitter as well, is this new system that Liverpool are playing is potentially not the same Salah. It's, a little bit different, and I think that's kind of been seen in terms of his output in pre-season. There's been a lot more assists rather than goals. Do you think maybe that hinders his value at 12.5 million?
It definitely. I think the whole of his game it does. I think 12.5 million is quite expensive for him. For yet another season, for him to perform to the heights that he has for the previous 4 or 5 or whatever he's performed at such exceptional levels for fantasy football. But he is still on set pieces. He is still likely to be involved in the goal, like you mentioned. He's full of assists. And maybe as the season goes on, I'll be more inclined to maybe drop Salah to save some money and bring in another Liverpool player, like you mentioned. But I think I just need to get familiar with what Klopp's thinking because I know I can rely on him to play Salah week in, week out.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know who else I can rely on him playing week in, week out, especially when European football comes back in.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. What are your, obviously being a Liverpool fan, how would you rank kind of the Liverpool forward options? Obviously, you got Gakpo, Diaz, Jota, Nunes, and Salah. Who would you say, like, kind of in which order would you put them in terms of people should have these players in their squad?
Oof. Um, it definitely does depend on money and how much you've got because, of course, I would say Salah it makes sense to start the season with Salah with his record on the first game of the season, with his record against top six clubs. Whether you want to, I know you know what I mean about Chelsea. I know they had a poor season last season, but they are one of the top six.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got a great record against Chelsea in particular as well. So it would be silly not to have him in if you could afford him, but I would completely understand if you cannot. And so then the best of the rest, I think, and you can't quote me on this because I really don't know, but I think Klopp's likely to start the season with Gakpo and Diaz.
Yeah.
That's how I would. That's what I would think. I've spoken to a mate of ours, and we've got a little. I don't think there's any money involved, thankfully, but we've got a little like bet of pride as to who scores more, and I've backed Diaz to score more than Jota this season. And I know Jota's arguably more prolific because he's just such a nuisance in front of goal. I just feel like Diaz might play slightly more games, which will give him the edge. But also, I do feel like I do. The weird thing is, as much as I think Diaz will score more, will play more, I feel like Jota's more likely to get more goals per minutes of playing.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think having either of them is definitely a plus. But I think after Salah, I think the next person that I'd go for is Gakpo. Nunes seems to be bright in pre-season, but I'm not too sure how he's going to start the season. And as much as we've got Jota and Diaz on the left wing, whether he'll still be forced out wide or if he will rotate with Gakpo, be nice to see him up front because that is what we signed him for, I think.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe he'll be rotated a little bit more because I could see Nunes being utilised more in the European and domestic cups. Not to mention that he won't feature in Premier League games, but I do feel like right this second, I think Klopp, his favourite front three for the Premier League is likely to be Salah, Gakpo, and Diaz.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Giving you some top insight here, Mr. Big Liverpool fan himself and former Mr. Liverpool winner as well. So you know, you can't argue with that, can you? To be honest, you know, like you've got the inside information. You've got the scoop.
Well, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think so. Don't come at me though when it's Harvey Elliott and Ryan Brewster's come back.
Yeah, definitely. While I've got you as well, talking about Liverpool, defensively in pre-season, it's looked a little bit shaky. Do you think that potentially diminishes the value of owning Trent Alexander-Arnold?
Oh no, not at all. I think Trent is 100%. He's a necessity. I think money's not even an option here with Trent. I think you have to have Trent in your team. I think Trent is 10 times more important than having Salah in your team. I think Trent is the second most important player to have in fantasy after Haaland. That is a strong opinion, maybe, but that is my opinion. I think you really do have to have him. I get we have been quite leaky at the back, and there's a few pointers for that because, of course, we are doing this new system, which does just leave the right side of defence quite exposed. But then, of course, they're trying to compensate for that by moving over, which then just opens up holes throughout the defensive line. I'm not too keen on it myself. I really do think we need to go for a right back.
Yeah.
Especially because if we're going to this formation, the system without a right back, Canate needs to be the right centre back. But of course, then there's not really much depth after him to play that role because I don't think Matip's quite got the the agility and the legs to actually fill that to cover two roles. I don't think that's Van Dijk's role, full stop, because he's always seemed to be a left-sided centre back. Um, I also think we've conceded quite a few because we do rotate. Like we have not. We, 9 times out of 10, we've had a completely different team that started the match
Yeah.
at the end of the game. So I do feel like that has a factor to play in it, but that's not me making excuses up because, quite frankly, a lot of the goals have been when we've had at the very least, two of the four what you'd say are defenders on the pitch at the same time, and that would start the season. So it is something that is a bit of a worry for keeping clean sheets if we aren't to invest on a couple of decent defensive players. But that's not going to stop Trent's output. If anything, it's just going to show that as much as we might concede, he ain't getting back. So he's going to be part of the goals one way or another. So yeah, like I said, just to repeat my point, I do think he is the second most important player to have on this game.
Yeah, Luke's asked a question as well. Why have Trent? I'm a Liverpool fan, and in pre-season he's been playing CDM in games and won't get forward as much. Personally, to answer that, any kind of defender that has massively kind of played out of position has always done extremely well in FPL because they're getting rewarded for doing things that they don't actually normally do. Even though Trent is in that CDM position, like you said, this is kind of like it feels like a bit gun-ho-y. You know, when Klopp first came to the Premier League and it seemed like you would just attack. There was no kind of consideration for defence. It seems very much like you've kind of gone back to that mentality. You've got the attacking players, so we're just going to go for it. And I think
Score more than you.
Yeah, exactly. Try and outscore. We can concede 3, but we'll score 5, 6. It's exciting, and it's great to own players, especially when they're playing out of position. So I agree with your point on Trent. You're getting absolutely slammed in the comments by Louis Truman.
Yeah, is his team something we're going to be reviewing, or are you not too sure?
Well, Louis, send it me on Twitter, mate, and we'll have a look. And who knows? Your team.
Am I smelling a blue nose?
Yeah. We've also had a question from Michael asking thoughts on Diego Dallo. My personal opinion, I'd say avoid. But Jake, what are you thinking for Diego Dallo? I'm gonna.
Are you thinking? Are you saying that because you think Wan-Bissaka is going to start the season?
No. I just think I'd rather have Onana or Shaw. And with Wan-Bissaka, I think him and Dallo can kind of just replace each other at times. We saw that at the back end of last season. Whereas I feel Shaw is a lot more secure as the first team left back and can slot in at centre back as well when needed. So I think that just makes him a better asset than Diego Dallo.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't think I'd say I don't think I'd say completely avoid, but I'd definitely say Luke Shaw is much more crucial to have in your team if you're going to opt for as a United defender. So yeah, I would be with you on that. I just don't know who's going to start the season, to be honest, at right back. I do quite like Wan-Bissaka, but then I wouldn't even go for him because he's not really much of an attacking outlet. So yeah, I think Luke Shaw seems to be the no-brainer really if you're going to go for someone in the back line at United.
Yeah, 100%. Roshan, I hope I'm pronouncing that, has also asked, is João Pedro a potential rotation doubt? Personally, I don't think not, especially if Undav does go. I think he's going to see a lot more minutes. Number 9, 30 million. I think he's going to play quite a lot of games. Obviously, when Brighton's European campaign starts to kick in, then we might have concerns. But realistically, I think you're only potentially going to own Brighton players for the first 3 game weeks. Because after that, their fixtures are tough. There's a lot of the top 6 in there after that point. So I think for the first 3, I think he should be playing quite a lot of minutes during that period of time.
Yeah, second that.
Right. Well, I think that's your team, unless you've got any final thoughts on it, mate.
No, all good. I'll go over it, have a little look, and hopefully next time we do our final little talk about it, we can give Louis something to smile about, maybe.
Yeah, just quickly before we actually finish, I've just remembered this. We're using Draft Hound as well. If you want to go and check that out, there will be a link to that in the description. This is where you can see all the kind of predicted points. As you can see on screen, you can see Jake's got 1 mil in the bank. His expected points are 50 for this game.
Start again, mate.
Cyber Towers has had you on strings there, pal. Start again. Average ownership is quite an interesting one at the top. 16%. That's I think that shows kind of, well, like if your average ownership is like 100, then it means everyone has all of these players, whereas your average ownership amongst the whole squad is only 16%.
Are we doing yours today?
Yeah, we're doing mine, mate. We're doing mine. Don't worry.
No, I'm just intrigued to know what the average. That is a cool stat. I like that.
Well, we'll go on to mine so you can.
I will. Fair enough. Mhm. Wait, oh, is that not? Oh, gee, I don't remember.
What a knob. There you go. You can hear me now. There you go. Right.
Lad, this Cyber Towers is out to get me
You're
today.
going to have to sacrifice Salah or Trent to upgrade. It's just not healthy looking. I don't even play FPL, and I know I'm better. I'm better on Minecraft. Oh, he's fully gone for you. Hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, just completely forgot to put my mic back in. Always on the show. Absolute carnage. Jake, what are you thinking of my draft?
Very strong. I like it. You're a big fan of the Palace start, I see.
Yep.
No, I am. I am definitely a good fan of it. I think Liverpool against Chelsea is going to be an interesting first game, to be honest, with you going for a Chelsea boy up top and me going for a Liverpool boy, of course. Any reason why you've gone for Chilwell on the bench and not starting him?
I just think Buemo penalties and your kind of attacking nature, but I mean it could still change. Like, I don't know, Spurs aren't amazing at the back either. Brentford are at home. They've got a good record against the top six at home. All it takes is for him to get a penalty, and easy points, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
Whereas your attack frightens me. Like it's scary, and Chelsea still aren't quite there defensively either. So I think Chilwell could get an attack in return, but at the same time could very easily concede and come away with a 2-pointer.
But we are forgetting that the past 10 years, I think, have been 0-0 draws between Chelsea and Liverpool.
Well, we had a look at that at work the other day. It's the past 4 games have been all 0-0s, which is mental. Absolutely
well, that's
mental.
including 2 lots of extra time as well.
Yeah, 2 cup games as well in that.
There's another 60 minutes, so yeah, it's mad.
Yeah, and Cuckoo's recently entered my team as well, mainly down to the fact, number one, today's news that broke, Gabby Jesus is injured. He's done something to his knee. There's no kind of time scale on how long he's going to be out. So I think that kind of confirms that Martinelli's going to start. Your other forwards as well, I've dabbled in Watkins, but Newcastle away doesn't seem like a great fixture game week 1. But then the following 2 are really good, very similar with Nkunku. But I think just watching that Chelsea team in pre-season, I think he's going to play a lot of games. Obviously, no European football. He can play in a variety of positions in the 10, in the left side, up front as well. So he's got that versatility in his game. maybe on free kicks, maybe on penalties as well. I think he's just a good asset to go for. It doesn't seem like the other forwards are kind of screaming out. And if it doesn't work out, I could move to like a Watkins or a Wilson or an Isak when their fixtures turn as well.
Nice, I like that. Yeah, no, I didn't realize Gabriel Jesus was injured, to be honest. So that makes me feel a bit more confident just nipping back to Trossard because you'd suggest that would give him more of a chance of playing as well.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw a few Arsenal fans maybe suggesting that he could play the false nine. They went with Nketiah tonight up top, so maybe he could be a little bit of a
how
differential
did they
option.
do?
I don't know. Let's have a look, shall we? Get the old
Do
Google up.
you know who it was they were playing?
Not a clue, mate. Not.
So it wasn't like a Madrid or someone.
Nah, it's Monaco. It finished 1-1 and Nketiah scored.
Wow, maybe
Oh,
he's the little cheeky one to throw in. I'm
maybe.
only joking inside the towers. I'm only joking.
It's actually still going off live 1-1. Yeah, Martinelli playing, no Saka playing, Ben White, Odegaard. Obviously, they've got Kai Havertz as well, who could easily go and play up front because he proved how prolific he was at Chelsea. Yeah, sarcasm, if you didn't get that one, ladies and gentlemen. Lucas, how long is Jesus out? Not a clue, mate. It kind of just news broke this evening. Fabrizio Romano was the first person to tweet it, trying to claw back some of his credibility. But, you know, if it's a long-term injury, then obviously I think we look at other Arsenal attacking options. If it's a short-term injury, I think it's an avoid in your game week 1 drafts, but a player you might want to switch to. So, yeah, that's a potential option. Looking through my team, Eze, Jake, what are you thinking on this man? Because I'm very hot for him this season.
I'm not surprised you're hot for him, but I am also quite hot for him. I think he's a great idea, a great person to have in the team. Great value. Value for money is second to none. I think he's going to be Palace's talisman from the looks of things, especially with Zaha leaving. He's almost the life and soul over the past 6 months or so. He's become the life and soul of Palace.
Yeah.
Everyone raves about him, and I completely get why, because he is such a fantastic player. He deserved his England call-up, and yeah, I could see myself having him in at some point. I do like Palace's start to the season. It could be someone that I even look into bringing in at some point at the start. Yeah, solid player to bring in. To be honest, I really get it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said talisman there. That was like kind of the theory that I went for last year, was targeting those talismanic figures from certain clubs, like the lesser clubs, the players who are on the penalties, are on all the free kicks. Just like, you know, when you look at a kind of a result on like FOTMob or Sky Sports, you know exactly who the player is going to be scoring or at least getting the assist. You know what I mean? And Eze this year, if he's on penalties as well, feels like he could be that man for Crystal Palace.
Agreed.
Did you see his goal in pre-season as well against Sevilla?
I don't believe so.
I think it went
So
to our Twitter chat. It was the one where he just ran past about 5 or 6
Oh
players.
yes.
Yeah.
I have, yeah. There's the Palace, the famous Palace Twitter podcaster guy, HTLC or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're onto him, but
Yeah.
he tweeted him and was singing his praise. I think he would go into a hole and bury himself, that lad, if Eze left the club, because he is a phenomenal player, to be fair, and I get why you would go for someone like that at the lower clubs, because they are the players you're going to need to grab the ball by the horns if they're going to have any impact on the league.
Yeah, definitely. I think that first fixture as well, Sheffield United away, they are looking interesting at the moment. Looks like they're going to lose and die to Marseille.
He's gone, hasn't he? I swear
Is
he's
he
like.
done? Is it done?
I swear he was like the Marseille fans. Yeah. I saw it. Yeah. He has. He's already said goodbye to Sheffield.
Oh dear. Yeah,
So,
they're going to be rivaling Derby's points record at this point. Their squad is looking thin, very thin on the ground. You imagine a Roy Hodgson, well-disciplined tactically kind of sound team are going to absolutely destroy Sheffield United game week 1.
Not looking good for them. I agree.
Not looking good. So I'm backing Eze. I'm thinking he's going to have a great year.
Who's back up front for Palace?
Which one?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, do you go for Edouard? Do you go for Ayew? Do you go for Mateta? I don't know. Like, I really don't know who would start up front, um, and who you'd back because Sheffield United is such a good game for them to start the season. And someone has mentioned, Luke said that there's so many midfielders that are good to choose from.
Yeah.
And of course, we have said there's a little bit of a dilemma for a striker. Well, maybe that is an answer for, especially for the start of the season, to bring in a Palace striker. But the thing is, I just don't know who's going to start. I don't know if are you a midfielder on this still?
No, I use a forward. Edward's a forward. Those are the two that have been playing the most games in pre-season so far for Crystal Palace. But again, it's just kind of one of them where, like, I wouldn't be bothered anyway even if Palace's fixtures were great, I still wouldn't want to go near them. Like, they're just a bit pants. They're just terrible players.
I'm not sure. We'll see. It's one of those really where we're going to watch the game. It'll finish 6-0 and Edouard and Ayew will score a hat-trick each. And we'll be like, why did we not go for one of them?
It's just going to get clipped up, isn't it? Like, oh, look at these two idiots.
They're all rubbish. We can't put any strikers up for Palace.
They've got terrible teams.
Get sent off.
Yeah. Absolute carnage as always. One question I wanted to ask you is there was a lack of Estupinian in your team. Obviously a very popular asset. Why did you avoid him?
Just because of his popularity, Tom. I'm not going to lie. I'm not. Yeah. I've got Haaland because I know that I will fall way down the pecking order because Haaland is inhuman. But Estupinian's not quite got that title about him just yet. He's definitely got a very high respected title in the FPL community. But I do feel like there are other decent options, and I've got Trent as everyone else has, or as a lot of people have. I've gone for Luke Shaw, who I do feel like is a decent player to have as an alternative. And I feel I do back my defense. But yeah, I don't know, just a bit of a red flag in my head when someone's got over 50%.
A bit of a red flag.
Nah, I don't like that. I feel like I almost feel like I'm cheating myself, even though I will regret it later down the line. But I like to feel like I've not used other people's opinions to bring the players in. I like to think, I've gone for someone else. I've not gone for someone who's like a bit shaky or is likely to concede or likely to not do very well. I've gone for someone else, and my alternative has been someone I do believe will still perform to the level of an Estupinian or better than that kind of player, because otherwise I would have gone for Estupinian. I just feel like there are other options there with less ownership where I can maybe nick a few points. Maybe 9 times out of 10 I'll be wrong, but in this situation, that's why I've done that. Whereas, like, of course, with Haaland, I feel like I would just be. I think that is a little bit. I don't think there's a word I can say for it, to be honest, on live on YouTube. But it would just be silly for me to not have Haaland. Estupinian, I can understand if I get a bit of slack for that, but I feel like there are other options there where I could maybe hit the jackpot with.
Yeah, definitely. I think this year, kind of the pricing structure of a lot of the players, I think it's going to suit your game style a little bit more, to be honest. Because everyone is kind of so compactly priced, you have players that are amazing on this game in terms of point scoring, who are going to be ridiculously low owned for like large parts of the game. Like Eze, I think, is at like 12%. The guy's ridiculous. You've got people like Chilwell as well at 8% owned. Like, there's going to be so many players that we can kind of switch and hop to this year. I think it is going to be a really interesting year for people, and I think there's going to be kind of a huge shift in kind of the template and where people get their points from, because there's so many good players at like ridiculously low prices.
Yeah, agreed. No, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And it'll be interesting to see what percentage of owners Estepinian has come Christmas time.
Oh, it'd probably be like rubbish. I think after game week 2 or game week 3, I'm gonna look to shift him on out of my team. Probably drop him down to like a 4.5. I think Matty Cash is probably the one that I've got my eye on.
Well, step ahead, lad.
Oh yeah, yeah. He called it out first draft. You mate, first draft. You went, oh, a little bit of cash. Oh, sure, of
Love
course.
a little bit of cash. You're saving cash with cash.
Yeah, exactly. Never say that again. That was terrible.
Some kind of bloody Iceland advert or something.
Yeah. I think as well. Like Levi Colwell at that 4.5 million is a good little pick. Very solid at Brighton last year. Obviously signed a new 6-year deal with Chelsea as well today or yesterday, and I think he's just a really good defender to have at that price point. There are so many again at this price point. There's just quality all over the pitch that you can have in your team this year.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, Luke, I can't rate your team if you type it in. If you want to go follow me on Twitter, I will be doing another team rating video, which I did yesterday. So if you want to get involved with that, go follow my Twitter. Link to that in the description. I will put a tweet out, and then obviously just get your team in there, and I'll do your team on a video, and we'll rate it there. So yeah, there you go, mate. Can't do it on the stream because it's just a bit boring, isn't it? We're not really looking at anything, but we'll do it in a video. We'll have,
I've just had a flash forward of us doing this review of like what we're looking at for game week 2, and it's me just like, so I've done a wild card.
guys, I fucked up, right? So I've had
That's
to hit the
the
wild
guy
card
who's
button.
right.
Oh dear, it's all gone wrong. It's horribly wrong. I'm bottom. I'm bottom. I just can't hack it. In terms of future streams, we'll finish up because there isn't too much else to talk about. We've been for our draft, but in terms of future streams, we are going to do one next Tuesday or next Wednesday, whenever me and Jake are free and can get together and talk about absolute rubbish for like an hour and a half. We will put together a stream where we're going to go through all the best fixtures for the first few weeks, the best players, best differentials, and then at the end, go through our teams in kind of detail, talk about the players that we're hoping play, don't play, who we think is going to be minutes risks, and of course, answering all of your questions. If you do have any more, get them in now as we will answer them before we finish. Jake, any kind of players that have caught your eye over the pre-season period that you're thinking, I wouldn't mind having him in?
I feel like I mentioned someone to you actually. I did see Nkuku has just scored on countless occasions. Just seems to be in the right place at the right time for Chelsea.
Yeah.
I like the look of him. He's definitely someone to keep an eye on. Depends on how often he plays, how many minutes he plays. With them not having any European competitions, you'd expect him to play the majority of the season. It's just then, of course, is he going to be kept up front or will he revert around the front line whilst Jackson gets implemented into the team as well? Yeah, so I like him. Of course, I've brought João Pedro in. I've got a lot of hope for him at the start of the season after how I watched one game. It was one set of highlights in playing, and I was like, "Wow, this man's the real deal." Yeah, I like him. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what other players pop in and out. Um, to be honest, I don't really have any that I haven't put in my team. I've got Gibbs White in my team, and I really liked him in the under 21 Euros. I really liked him at Forest last year. I just don't know how Forest are going to perform this year. And of course, I guess you could say he is their talisman. So if anyone's going to take them and perform and get the points that they need, because their safety isn't guaranteed again this year, he's going to have to be the person to do it. I haven't seen much of him this preseason, I must say. So it'll be interesting to see how he starts the season. maybe he's someone that I've maybe prematurely put into my team when there's someone that has caught the eye already. I do like the thought of Trossard, especially now that you've mentioned about Gabriel Jesus. That might be someone that I do stick to, and maybe I look to replace Gibbs White for the start of the season. Um, maybe for Matoma, as Luke seems absolutely desperate to have Matoma in his team, doesn't
Yeah, he's asking us about is Matoma essential. Personally, no.
he? No,
Um,
I'd agree.
he's got super high
Uh,
ownership this year, but I think he's only had one attacking return since game week 31, and that was an assist. Obviously, he's a player that always dazzles and catches the eye, but in Brighton's pre-season game, there was the lad who scored two. I can't remember his name. Like lots of people have been asking me questions about him, and I always forget his name, so I'm gonna go find it right now. But he scored
nice.
two, and he was on loan last year from Brighton at Union Saint Gallen, is it in Belgium? Probably absolutely
Something like
butchered
that, yeah.
that. Where he got 20 goal contributions, both in double figures for goals and assists. So very good player, and plays in a very similar position to Matoma as well. So you imagine his minutes are a little bit. That's the guy. It's
What?
where is he? Is he even in the game? Oh, he is. Adingara. Yeah,
Fair enough.
sure. Adingara. He is the guy. Simon Adingara. Absolutely butchering that as always. But yeah, he's the guy I think's going to be rotating with Matoma this season. So I think he's not essential, to be honest. I think the problem people are going to have as well is I've seen a lot of drafts where people have triple Brighton or double Brighton. After game week 3, their fixtures stink. Like proper honk. So I don't think you're going to want as many of these Brighton players as you think. Yeah, they look good. That first game against Luton, brilliant. Obviously, there's other good fixtures in there as I try and find the fixtures on the tab to look at who they've actually got. But I know it stinks. So they've got Luton, Wolves, West Ham, and then it's Newcastle and Manchester United after that. Like, yeah, you're not really going to want them after that, to be honest, are you? So I think going for any more than two is stupid. And I think two's even pushing it. You've got to find yourself a good exit strategy for game week 4 if you are going to go for an Estupinian, who's probably the most popular pick, and then like your other pick, who's probably going to be a mix of Enciso, João Pedro, Matoma, March. You've got to have a way out of them in game week 4 if you are planning on having them. But do you really want to be banking 2 transfers in this early on? Probably not.
Probably not. Who do you have as your reserve keeper, by the way?
I just have Areola, but I'm thinking I might put the backup Brentford goalkeeper in, just because
Fair enough.
Flecken's been a bit stinky in pre-season. Like the goal he conceded the other day was a bit.
Yeah, you were really not keen on that goal he conceded, were you?
No, I know it's only pre-season, and you can make of that whatever you want, but still conceding goals like that. Yeah.
No, fair enough. No, I was just going to say because Palace of Arsenal second game, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I'm just going to play Johnson. He's probably going to get save points. Um,
That's the thing, isn't it? Really, when they have a difficult
yeah.
game, they at least are more likely to save more chances than they are to keep a clean sheet. So at least they kind of can maybe save face a little bit.
I think with Palace as well, they're never a team that get like bummed, do they
Mm,
realistically? Roy is quite defensively sound as a coach. So I think like even if they went to Arsenal, it'd probably only be 2 or 3-0.
yeah.
I think it's at
Have
Palace.
we got no
Well,
have we got no other City players other than Haaland? No, I mean I don't either, but I'm just asking.
again, it's like picking which one to go for. I think looking at their pre-season games, they've reverted to a back 4 as well. So John Stones kind of loses his appeal. And I always prefer going for wing backs, like a Ben Chilwell, an Estupinian, these players that can get the returns rather than just kind of hoping and praying for a clean sheet. It's a bit
Yeah.
boring playing FPL like that, isn't it, sometimes?
No, I completely agree. I like the look of Jack Grealish. If
Yeah,
anyone
yeah.
attacking wise is going to be coming into my team, of course, he's not as cheap as Eze or the others that are going to be relied upon. Whereas, of course, Grealish isn't relied upon as much because he's in such a such a powerful team as it is.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to potentially sign. Is it Doku and Michael Elise as well?
Is it looking like Elise is going to happen?
It's kind of one of them. It's like it's up in the air, to be honest. Roy says they're going to do well to hold on to him, but you know,
Be an interesting signing, that.
yeah. Big fan of Michael Elise. Luke's asked another question as well. Thoughts on Richarlison if Kane leaves? Now, I actually kind of like this. I spoke about this in the draft rating video as someone did have Richarlison in their team. And you know what? If Kane leaves, Richarlison could be the pick. As long as they don't go and buy another forward, that is. Because if you think elsewhere, like they haven't got anyone else who can kind of play that role. Richarlison has done it in the past when he was at Everton and was quite good. Obviously, last year for Spurs, he was dreadful. But he does have that ability in him. At 7 million as a midfielder as well, if he's playing up front, I think that makes real good sense. What do you think about that, Jake?
Completely agree. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Is Solomon more of a winger?
Yeah. Solomon's been playing out wide. He's been rotating with Kulusevski and Son in pre-season.
Yeah, so in which case, I think Richarlison would almost be a no-brainer if Spurs start the season well without Kane.
Mm.
But yeah, who knows if he's going? Do you think he's going to leave?
Well, I read today apparently he's willing to buy his own last year out of his contract to leave.
Wow. I just kind of accepted that he wouldn't leave because he wants this Alan Shearer record, but I guess he's finally realised personal trophies aren't quite as big as the team ones.
Well, yeah. Yeah, to answer your question as well there, Luke, he does take up a midfield slot. But if you've got a player who's, again, playing out of position as a forward, he's going to be picking up
But he's getting an extra point already, isn't he, per goal?
He's extra point per goal. I think it's an extra point per assist you get as well, or I could be chatting there. But he's also going to get clean sheet points. Yeah, I'm always chatting. Me, mate. But he also gets a clean sheet point as well. So you're basically getting a striker who's going to get 2 extra points.
Yeah, which then, of course, ups the chances of the bonus points.
Yeah, massively. You always see it. Like, the goal scorers usually, the strikers definitely, unless they're getting like 2 or 3 goals, struggle when they only get like an assist on the bonus point system. But if a midfielder gets an assist, they love it. Absolutely lap that up. So I think
exactly. Also, you're going to want to be on the right side of that chicken celebration.
Oh yeah, good old Richie lad. Just
hey Richie lad.
Hey Richie lad. But yeah. If you do have any more questions, do get them in. Some good ones tonight. Luke's been very consistent in the chat, so thank you, Luke, providing some quality entertainment, some good questions.
Here's one for you then.
Go on.
West Ham away to Bournemouth first game. Is Bowen a shout?
I think he is, but I think he's lost a little bit of his appeal because he's no longer potentially going to be on penalties, and I think long term their fixtures stink. It's Chelsea after, then Brighton. Luton's all right, but then it's City and Liverpool back to back.
So for the longevity, it's not worth it. But it's not a bad shout, is it? Maybe for a Gibbs White, just for the 1 week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Gibbs White.
They've just got Arsenal first game, so I'm just not sure I fancy him.
Well, looking at this, they've only really got two good fixtures in the opening 6. So they got Arsenal, then Sheffield United at home, good fixture, then United, Chelsea, then Burnley at home, and then City.
Yeah, the only thing I have to combat with that is that Forest didn't really go down without a fight much last season. And so, yeah, fine, they may lose 4 of the first 6 games, but I could see them scoring in 5 of the 6 of them. That's the only reason I'm thinking, like, because as much as like you would want back players in your team because they're going to be in a team that's going to win and their fixtures look good, I also do feel like he's the kind of player that would pop up with a goal contribution in like a 3-1 defeat or a 1-1 draw or something like that. Because, like I say, like he's the type of player that if they're going to score a goal, they're going to need him to have created it or scored it himself. He scored against Liverpool last season. I'm not too sure who else he scored against, but I know he scored against Liverpool, and I know he had like finished the season on a bit of a purple patch, so I don't know if that'll kick on to next season. But I'm not too sure about the first game being away to Arsenal.
Mm.
I think the hype at Arsenal is going to be too much for them potentially. Maybe I mean we've seen Arsenal crumble under the pressure before, but I also would back Arsenal to maybe win without conceding at home first game of the season with their new signings, with the fans all quite optimistic. But if Forest are going to burst the bubble, I think Gibbs White would be at the centre of it. So that's the dilemma I've got. But I guess that's when I could potentially bring a Bowen in for the first game and then see Gibbs White, look at him in envy as he bags a couple against Arsenal, but then bring him in home to Sheffield United the following week. So it's one of those.
Yeah, 2 points to that. Obviously, I agree with your point about Morgan Gibbs-White. He is their kind of key man. He's on all their free kicks and corners, so picked up a lot of assists from them last season, which is always handy to have. That game is also the early kickoff on a Saturday. And old Gandhi and his flip-flops.
Is Gandhi mates with Morgan Gibbs-White then this weekend? Well,
I reckon
that
he
week.
might be. Him and I've seen that picture of them with Wayne Lineker.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You not see it? Ocean Beach Club. They were him, Morgan Gibbs-White, Jack Grealish, and Gandhi. They were all there. They were getting ready for the early kickoff.
Of course.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, I think that only means one thing. But now I'm wondering, am I captaining the right man in Haaland?
Morgan Gibbs-White, to me, he screams game week 1 captain material.
What was your second point?
That was my second point. The first point I made was that he's on set pieces. The second point was he's best mates with Gandhi.
Yeah, fair enough. Does he take penalties as well more often than not? I don't know if Johnson has like hierarchy, but I know that Gibbs White took a few.
Well, this is the thing with Johnson. There's a few clubs interested in buying him. Apparently, Brentford have had an approach.
Spurs were tempted as well, weren't they?
Yeah, apparently if Kane leaves, they're going to pay 50 million for Brendan Johnson.
Brennan, actually.
Well, exactly. That's how irrelevant he is. He doesn't deserve his proper name. If you're watching, I do apologise. Why would he even?
Sorry, Brendan.
Brendan, pal. Don't take it personally. Oh, he's definitely not going to be watching, is he? Who's watching this? It's only me, you, and Luke here. To be honest, Luke's loving it. Luke's carrying the questions. What a top OG you are, Luke. I've just seen you put another question in. If Foden starts, is he essential?
Essential's a strong word.
Yeah, it is a very strong word. Obviously, City's fixtures are really good, but I just think like there's so many. It's just pep roulette. I can't be arsed with it. Like, and now there's so many other players around that price point who are good. Like, I don't know. I just don't feel it's worth it. He is a really good player, but I've been burnt by him so many times. More times than I've had, like, amazing weeks with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those, really, where bringing Foden in away to Burnley could score a couple, could be involved in a few. And you could jump ahead of absolutely everyone who hasn't gone for that pep roulette, and that's fine. But then you keep him in, and then he doesn't feature for 3 weeks running, and you've missed out, and everyone's caught up with you. It's one of those where, as much as he might perform really well that 1 week, he may just be benched for no reason behind it. If anything, you perform well, you actually get benched.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you there. He's definitely not essential, but he's not a waste of time. He's just a risk.
Yeah, definitely. We're getting the questions flying in. Luke started a little bit of a bandwagon here. Go on, son. Thanks, Luke. Thomas has asked, thoughts on Almiron? Personally, no. Don't bother. Stay well away.
I don't know. Well, I don't know.
You would. You'd be like, oh, I like a bit of Almiron. He's cheeky.
Well, he is cheeky. I'm not against Almiron. I just don't know how they're going to start the season. I do think he'll play. I do think he'll start for Newcastle. Well, you know what? I'm not fully against it.
Oh dear.
I know you're absolutely in denial over Almiron. I don't really know which of your exes he's been seeing, but he's yeah, I'm not against it, but like I just think I think at the end of the day there are just so many other decent options
Yeah.
that I feel like Almiron's probably a little bit down the pecking order. Um, if they had maybe a stronger set of fixtures in their favour, I'd be more inclined to back you. And be like, yeah, go for Almiron. You've got Brighton, Luton. I know I said Brighton, but like, say they were all home games and they're all games where you'd be like, okay, yeah, they're going to score a couple goals, they're going to win, or they're going to have some form of goal contributions in open play. You'd think Almiron might get involved in it because you'd think he's going to start. But yeah, I don't know how that Villa game's going to go. I saw in pre-season it was 3-3. I really like how Villa have invested this summer. I actually wouldn't put it past Villa getting a little shock victory at St James's Park, or at least coming away with something. Um, but then Newcastle, they've got. I'm just looking now. They've got literally Villa, City, Liverpool, Brighton.
Even Brentford's not an easy fixture, is it?
Oh god. It's a I do see Newcastle beating Brentford at home. And that's, to be honest, maybe Almiron's someone to keep an eye out for. If you're going to go for someone other than like a Wilson or an Isak or whatever, once they've got through the first 4 weeks, because then they've got Brentford, Sheffield United, Burnley, West Ham, Palace, Wolves. Oh, that's a really nice run. So they
Yes.
have got a nice run coming, but yeah, I think Almiron's one of them. You know what? As much as I said I didn't mind it, I think it's one of those where you have to give it the first 4 game weeks and then maybe ask that question again.
Yeah. A player that's caught my eye from Newcastle has been Elliot Anderson in pre-season. Only 4.5 million. And I think he's got 4 goals and 3 assists over pre-season. So,
Just depends if he starts. I think the
yeah,
issue
yeah,
the issue that Anderson has is that he's playing for a club run by billions of pounds, so they can just buy someone that's already ready made.
yeah. It is
Yeah.
true, but at the same time, Eddie Howe is very good at progressing players to that next level.
Well, yeah, he's definitely someone to keep an eye on.
I think
And
that's
yeah,
the good thing with Newcastle having those trickier fixtures is the fact that we do get a 4 or 5 game week period to kind of see which are the key players and which ones we should be going for and which ones we should be avoiding.
yeah, I agree. No, I agree with that. And of course, like we said, I think after those 4 weeks, I think it is definitely worth considering bringing a Newcastle player in.
Yeah, 100%, 100% agree with that. We've got a question from the unofficial tribe. The official tribe couldn't make it, so the unofficial parties arrived here. What do you guys think of a Trent, Salah, and Haaland draft? Personally, I think that is just a
That
bit.
sounds way too close to home.
It's just a bit overkill, to be honest. Like, for me, I think there are so many better. I see you. I see you. I see you there. Got your hands in the air. But I personally think like you can get so many good value midfielders at that 7.5 to 8.5, even 9 with like Son and stuff. I don't think it's worth having all three in a team, if you get me. Even the defenders as well. If you wanted to go without Trent, there are so many different
Hold
possibilities.
on, like, okay, no, I feel like you're saying you don't need to have all three, but I think what you're really saying is you don't need to have Salah
Well,
because I don't
he would
think
be the
you're ever
one that I
going
would say don't
no,
go
you're
with.
not going to tell someone they shouldn't have Haaland, are you?
Well, it goes Salah then Trent would be the two that I I think you can go without.
As in, like, Haaland's most important, then are you putting Trent or Salah second?
Trent second,
Yeah, okay.
and
No,
then
I'll agree with that, but yeah, I think, well, you've got Trent and Haaland, haven't you?
yeah, I've got Trent and Haaland. But then if you compare our midfields and the players that I have available,
Mine's like a lot stronger, I would say.
well, sure, mate, sure, you know,
It's
uh,
one of those. I think it's a double-ended sword, and I think it's also a win-win in some instances because as much as you could say it's overkill, I think you even made the point, which is really valid, is the fact that having Salah in along with those other two players, it does mean maybe you've got to be a little bit cheaper.
mm,
The other players that you go for, and maybe like look for a couple bargains, but You've got Salah, who's got such a good prolific record. Like I've gone through this already, but he does tend to start the season quite strongly. He's got a team that he does play well against. Um, if it doesn't go to plan and things don't work out for him, you've got 12.5 million to deal with. You've got almost two, maybe even three improvements you can make across the next 3, 4 game weeks. And I'm not saying you have to do this straight away, but it gives you a couple of weeks maybe to have Salah, see how it goes. It's either going to go really well for you whilst everyone else has either done the same with other players, but you're not losing track of them, or you're going to not do very well, be a bit behind, but you're going to have that advantage over them, arguably, in the fact that you've got the finances to sacrifice Salah and to get the exact players that everyone else would like to maybe just save a little bit of money to be able to get just to make their team a little bit better, or you can do that with ease. So I think it's a win-win either way, having Salah in your team. Um, and like I said, I think Haaland and Trent are the two most important players to have in your team.
Yeah, I agree with that point. Like, you know, you can come down. That's kind of the reason I have Trent. It's the fact that if he doesn't perform in those first couple game weeks, I've got the funds to move to other players. I completely get that point, and I think that's valid. I think if you're going to go for all three, you are banking on Salah doing really well for me to warrant that 12.5 million. And you're potentially looking at him as a captain some weeks when Haaland's fixtures aren't great. I think that is the reasoning you would go for Salah.
Yeah, agreed.
And if you're doing that, then I can't really argue. Like, if game week 2 you're like, I'm going Salah, then there's not much else I could really say to that, to be honest.
Do you think Salah's more important than Kane? Should Kane stay, or would you be more inclined to go for Kane?
Oh, I'd probably be more likely to go for Kane, you know.
Yeah,
I feel
no, fair enough.
he's going to play 90 minutes like every single week as
Come
well.
rain or shine, yeah.
It's very rare he comes off early. Whereas
Mm.
Salah, obviously the quality that you've got up front, if he's having a bit of a stinker or you've played a Europa League game, I could easily see him just coming off at 60 or not starting a game if it's like a lesser opponent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, you do make a good point, but I think, like I said, it's a win-win either way. Um, my mum was saying we need to stop agreeing with each other, but I can't help but agree with you, Tom. It's one of those things where we look at it both ways. I think both of us are right in our own little way, but of course, one of us is going to be going about it the long way because either you're going to be right and I'm going to have to take the weeks to just get rid of Salah and save some money and then catch up, or I'm going to have Salah be laughing because he scored a few, and you're going to have to either just accept the fate of not having Salah, and hope that he just has a bit of a dry patch, or you're going to have to mix your money around in the opposite way just to be able to afford him. But I don't know. Like we keep coming back to, there are so many options in midfield, and across the park, to be fair, of reasonable prices that I don't feel like it's going to have too much of an impact on those that don't have Salah.
Mm.
Um, I think it is going to be more eyes on how Salah does for the people that have him in. So I do take that on the chin, but hopefully he can have my back.
Yeah, we have got so many questions to get through here. People have been flying. Luke's back was aching a little bit. He was carrying the stream in terms of questions, but people are absolutely flying in. Luke's asked again, the best 4.5 million defenders. We're just going to pick one. Not go into too much detail as we do have quite a few other questions to go through. Jake, your favourite 4.5 million defender? I think I've got a clue who it's going to be.
I mean, I feel like the most sensible one would be Matty Cash.
Mm.
Um, I can't. I'm not going to lie. I haven't studied off by heart the script of all the 4.5 million defenders. So maybe there is someone else out there, but I think Matty Cash seems like the most sensible one.
Yeah.
How about you?
I think Matty Cash, yeah, he's probably the most attacking minded of them. I think Rico Henry from Brentford is a good shout. But my personal favourite, I think, is going to be Colwell. I think he's going to start a lot of games for Chelsea this year. He was excellent at the under-21 Euros, was excellent for Brighton as well last season. I think he's going to be a quality player. I'm putting this out there. He's going to get a call up to the Euro squad come the summer.
I don't. Yeah. I'm trying to find a way to argue with you, but I can't really.
Go on, say, go on,
Yeah.
go on.
What I was going to say though was just looking at the 4.5s. I do quite like the look of Calvin Bassey.
Hmm.
He was good at Rangers. He went to Ajax. He's just gone to Fulham. Depends where they play him because I think he played as a fullback for Rangers, but then went more of a centre back for Ajax.
Yeah.
But if he were to play as a fullback for Fulham, that may not be a bad shout to look at because he's a quality player. He's going to play week in week out. Um, so I like that. We haven't really mentioned Wolves, and Aït-Nouri is a good left back. He's someone that does come up with the odd goal contribution, and it's just one of those really with how are Wolves going to do this season. I think everyone just kind of just goes off how are Wolves going to do this season, but then they always seem to just be able to do just about enough. But of course, they have lost they've lost Neves, haven't they? And they've lost Collins, so they have lost a bit of their spine. And I don't know if Jimenez is
He's
gone, is
gone.
going
He's
to.
gone.
He has gone now, yeah.
Yeah, he's gone.
So
Right.
that'll be interesting.
Let's move on to our next questions. We've bloody got loads to get through here. Blimey. Mans, I'm sorry if I pronounced that incorrect. He's asked, as a new manager to FPL, would you risk Foden or would you go for a Bruno Fernandes who's going to play more minutes? Personally, I think go Bruno. He's on penalties as well. Manchester United captain, so he's probably going to play a lot of games this season. So that's the way I'm going. Jake, Foden or Fernandes?
I'm gonna go for Bruno Fernandes because he's going to play every minute, isn't he?
Yeah.
Regardless of the Champions League, regardless of anything, Bruno will play. Maybe the odd game when like it gets to the real nitty gritty time, he may be rotated a little bit. But to start the first few months of the season, he's going to play. He's going to be involved in a lot of the build-up play, a lot of the creativity, and a lot of the outcome, and the attacking end of the pitch. Like we mentioned about how essential a player is, I think you could put Bruno into the more essential category if you're going to pick a specific team, um, as opposed to Foden, who once again he could turn out to be essential if Pep starts to rely on him. But it just depends because at the moment all we can really go by is the past season or so, and Bruno plays week in week out, and it's not quite the same with Foden. So we'll just have to wait and see. But right this second, you've got to go for Bruno.
Yeah, we've been asked our top 4 and relegation picks. I'll let you go first. Who's winning the
Top
league?
4 relegation picks.
Yeah. Go on.
Whoosh. Okay, in no particular order, just so I don't get abuse from anyone.
I want to know who's winning. I want to know who's winning.
Nah, I was going to put first then.
So Liverpool are winning the league. Yeah, that's done, is it? You nailed.
No, I can't see past Man City winning the league again. As much as I'd love to say Liverpool, and like I have to, if I were to be realistic about it and not like be one of those believers, I'm not saying that it can't happen, but I'm going to say that yes, I think City will win the league. I think Liverpool will be in the top 4. I also think Arsenal will stay in the top 4. I don't know how Chelsea are going to do this year. I really don't. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and United. How about you for top 4?
I'm gonna go City winning the league. If they're getting that centre back from Leipzig, it looks like. So that's ridiculous. If they get like Michael,
quadruple then.
Yeah. If they get Michael Elise as well, like that team is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That is so strong. So they're winning it. I'm gonna go second. I'm probably gonna go Arsenal. I think they've recruited quite well in terms of the players that they needed to get in. How they get on with European football is going to be a challenge. So they could come 4th or 3rd, but I still think they're going to be in the top 4. Do I want to put United in there? No, I don't want to put United in there. I don't like United. We're going to go with... I'm going to throw it out there. We're going to go Chelsea. Chelsea are going in the top 4. No European football. Pochettino, a top manager as well. I think that just makes sense, to be honest. Them as a potential top 4 club. Who have I got left? I've got Spurs. I've got Newcastle. Oh, dear.
You're just ignoring the elephants in the room, but that's fine.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about you guys. Yeah, Liverpool can go in there. They'll go 4th. Is that all right?
I'll take that. I'll take top 4, to be honest. As long as you can get back into the Champions League, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I just can't put Scum in there, to be honest. So they're never going in. They're 6th or 5th or wherever they want to come.
Yeah. All right. Sound. So were we just doing like 19th and 18th because 20th is just confirmed?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it?
yeah. 20th's confirmed. Sheffield United are down. If you didn't see the news, Premier League already tweeted
Yeah,
it.
Sheffield. They've been. I think they posted it on their Instagram
Yeah, yeah.
actually.
Their social media guy must have it already saved in like his pending tweets and stuff. Relegated.
Yeah.
Thanks for this season. You've been amazing. We'll be back stronger next year.
Maybe that's why they're not reinvesting, to be honest, because they have just realised. If in genuinely, if Sheffield United survived this season, fair play to them, because a lot of people wrote Bournemouth off last season, but Bournemouth's team was so much stronger at the start of last season than what Sheffield United have, and even Bournemouth were doubted. Speaking of Bournemouth, could be their turn this season. I do feel like Bournemouth could be in trouble. I'm gonna put my heart before my head, I think, a little bit here, because I'm going to say Luton are going to stay up by the skin of their teeth, because I would love to see them survive.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to go Sheffield United. I'm going to go for Bournemouth. I'm going to go for Everton.
Whoa! I can tell we've got a Liverpool fan in here. Everton? Oh my!
How about you?
Obviously, Sheffield United, rock bottom. They honestly could break Derby's points record this year. They look bad.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go Wolves. I made a TikTok about them the other day. They're in like a real mess. Apparently, they need to sell like a couple more players before they're allowed to buy anyone else, according to their owners and stuff.
What players can they sell?
Well, this is the thing. I looked at the players like they've released as well, like Matoma. Martinho's gone. Traore's gone. Like, I know they're not starters, but you know, they're just depth players they've got.
Yeah.
They don't have a forward really. They haven't
Is
had a forward.
Was he went out on loan? Did he ever permanently leave?
I think he's permanently gone as well.
Was he?
There's just a bit. They just seem a bit of a mess, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go Wolves, and then I'm gonna go Forest as well.
Okay.
I think Morgan Gibbs-White is probably going to do like a lot of the carrying. I think he's great, and I think he'll leave regardless of if they go down or stay up. I think a top 6 club is going to be eyeing him up in the next few years if he continues the way that he is doing. But I think like it's just been a complete change of like philosophy. It seems like this year there's no money to spend. You know what I mean? They haven't got a goalkeeper at the moment, so that's a big issue. And
well, I see that. I see that.
If they lose
I can
Johnson as
understand
well.
Wolves there. Jeez, Wolves are in trouble.
Yeah.
But no, you know what? I'm gonna come. I do feel like it. I feel like it. Other than Sheffield, I do feel like Bournemouth are in the mix. I feel like Wolves are in the mix. I can see why you'd say Forest are in the mix. So, like I said earlier, they're not guaranteed survival. They do need to rely on the likes of Gibbs White and Brennan Johnson should he stay. Yeah, but I also like the reason I said Everton is like putting any conflict aside. They've not really reinvested that much either. They've got Danjuma, but even Sean Dyche was saying in a press conference or in an interview that they've missed out on quite a lot of signings. And if that's anything to go by with the subtleties of those videos that said, "Oh, we've got Johnny Evans coming in," and they've missed out on Johnny Evans.
Yeah.
I think that just goes to show that they've really not got the pull that they should do for a club as big as Everton, a club that are moving into a stadium that are allegedly I think they're I think they're one of the stadiums that's going to host Euro 28, is it, that England have been given?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think Everton has actually been picked above Anfield to be one of the host stadiums, and yet they're not attracting the players that they should be at all. And whether that's got something to do with the money that they have, I don't know. But even so, if Sean Dyche is saying they're missing out on players and stuff, and they're not really reinvesting when they did survive by the skin of their teeth for the second year running, I actually think Forest's team has more quality in it than Everton's, regardless of the fact that they have got they've got an England number one in goal.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I agree with your points on Everton. I think I read today as well in the Athletic. Apparently they're going to sell Damari Gray to Fulham. Like,
Is
who have you got left, lads? Who's going to play up front when DCL gets injured after 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Neil
Well,
Maupay is not the answer.
no, not at all. I don't think Dan is a striker either.
No, Ellis Sims has been sold as well. Like, there's going to be some problems up top for Everton.
Yeah. And I
Feet,
don't think it'd be interesting to see how the fans are and stuff. Like I don't know if it's just like a stereotypical thing to say that Everton fans will get on your back and stuff, but surely they've got to see it as yet another season where they've like last after Lampard's heroics, you could argue with them beating Palace that time and there being complete euphoria to them having to deal with it yet again. They can't. They'll be thinking, surely we can't have to go through this yet another season. A club as prestigious as ours. So yeah, I don't know how that's gonna like conflict with one another if they're like we've not really improved our squad and yet here we go again.
it reminds me very similar of Sunderland a couple of years ago. Kept surviving relegation and each year slowly got worse.
Yeah.
And it eventually gets to the point where it's just like, how like Sean Dyche is a good manager, but he can't work miracles. Like,
No, his Burnley side he took down was probably had more of an even field to it in all the positions
yeah,
than this one does. They at least had, I don't know, did they have Chris Wood at that point? They at least had strikers who could score in the Premier League, um, albeit they weren't at the level that they needed to be to stay up. But nor are Everton at this moment in time.
yeah, it's not looking very good for the old Blue Noses. People are
Yeah.
fuming, mate, that we haven't put Luton down. They're kicking off.
I think it's more. I really do love a fairy tale.
Mm,
Uh, there always seems to be one club that survives the first season back, and I do feel like Burnley will have enough with company, and I do think they're going to be all right this season.
yeah,
Uh, I would absolutely love to see Luton stay just one season even. It is definitely something to consider because their side they've not really signed anyone that's known to be proven in the Premier League. Um, and of course their side, but then again, this side have come all the way. They've got at least one player in it, I know, that's come all the way from the National League. So they've got a togetherness in that squad. They've got the chemistry where there will be a group of players that will have at least achieved a promotion or two with the group. So they're a team of they know how to achieve, they know how to overachieve, and they know how to stick together as a unit. So it could be, don't mark my words, but it could be like the season that Sheffield United had
yeah,
when that team was arguably not quite up there on paper with the top Premier League sides to stay up. And then it was just all about the togetherness of the side. It was all about how they linked up as a team, not how they were as individuals. Um, so I completely understand why people are maybe giving us a bit of slack for that because their team is another one that you have to question how much quality they have in comparison to other teams that are even going to be fighting for survival. And I think Forest once again are a team that does come to my head that I do feel like have got more strength and depth than Luton do. Um, I think Luton's squad is better than Sheffield's. I think their squad is then on a par with the likes probably of Wolves and Everton. But I think the thing that they have over those teams is they have fans that are going to love every second of every minute in the Premier League. They're going to be up for every game. Is it Kenilworth Road? Is that what
Yeah,
it's called?
yeah,
Yeah, that's as much as it's a very intimate ground and stuff. Maybe that'll benefit them. It's going to be rocking. They're going to be making the most of it because they are going to be thinking realistically, and they're going to expect maybe that they will only be there for 1 year. So let's make the most of it. And that is when they can overachieve, when you just are satisfied with the bare minimum of we've made it this far. Let's just enjoy ourselves. Let's just get behind the team. Whereas it's a completely different spectrum for the likes of Everton, and maybe Wolves are in the middle of Luton and Everton, of a side that have been a top flight club for a good amount of years, where the fans have got used to success of some sorts.
yeah.
Wolves were even in Europe for one season, weren't they? So like it just goes to show that their fans are expectant of much more, much greater things, so will be more likely to get on their back more. Whereas Luton may just have that little extra kick because they may be 4-0 down to City at Kenilworth Road, or they may be on an away day at, I don't know, like Brighton, and not be quite getting the result that they want. But the fans will forget that because then next week they'll be just the same again, I would have thought, because they're just going to get behind their team week in, week out. Whereas maybe if Everton go on a losing run, their fans are going to be a lot quicker to get on their back, as would be the case with another side that have been in the Premier League for a few years. I know it's all a mentality thing, and I could be speaking up my arse, but I do feel like there is some logic there.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is like a different experience going to Luton, especially for
Mm.
Premier League players who go to like, top grounds all around Europe. They're playing in the best facilities. To go to a ground that was in League Two 5 years, where the fans are on you, it's going to be a sellout every single game. And they're going to be up for it, win, lose, or draw. They're going to be behind that team because, like you said, there is no expectations. It's just, we're in the Premier League, enjoy it.
Yeah.
We might never ever get this experience again in our lives. As well, with Luton, they are really good recruiters. They use very similar models to Brentford and Brighton, and we've seen how well they've done since both of those clubs have been promoted. So, some
Yeah.
of these players that we're like, who? What? Like, you're buying like 1-2 million players. By the end of next season, we could be going, oh well, I've got Marvelous Nakamba in my team.
Exactly.
Like, who had
No.
heard of Matoma a year ago? Absolutely nobody.
So
So
is Nakamba a Luton player, or is he back at Villa,
yeah, they
or is that
bought him. They bought him back.
right?
They bought him back. Right, moving on from our kind of nice Luton debate. We have got thoughts on Ped Porro. What are your thoughts on Ped Porro? Because mine are very positive indeed. So I'll let you go first as I just turn my mic up a little bit.
Well, I've only gone through a Doge in mine, just to be different. But I think I may have egg on my face come the start of the season because I think Ped Porro is much more likely to start the season. I think the wing back formation, should Spurs stick to it with three at the back and those wing backs, I think Udogie and Porro would be perfect and would complement one another very well. But I think it's more likely Porro will start the season, whereas Udogie may take a couple of games to be implemented in the team. I don't know. But I do like that idea of having one of those Spurs fullbacks. Um, and Porro did have a very good attacking outlet in his scoring on FPL last season. Scored a few goals, got a few assists. So yeah, I think you should probably take it away with him being in your team, I believe.
He was in my initial draft.
Is he not anymore?
No, I've since removed him from my draft. But I think he's a player that I potentially am going to move Estupinian off. So when his good fixtures are done, move to Ped Porro because Spurs have a nice kind of period where their fixtures are amazing. So I think that is the plan to kind of do that. But I don't know. It is tricky with Spurs because they're not very good at defending. But last season, 3 goals, 3 assists, and he joined in January. He ended up being... There was only him and Gabriel and I think Shaw who got 3 goals last season as defenders.
Wow.
So I think that says it all, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely does. Yeah, I think that's a very straightforward one. He's a good shout to have.
Definitely. Having a few issues with my mic here. Helpful.
I mean, you sound fine to me. Is it on the stream?
Must be on the stream. Apparently, I sound a bit quiet. I mean, it's turned all the way up, so not 100% sure what else I can do, but yeah.
Shout.
Hello. Um, maybe we both just whisper and just turn it into like an ASMR stream.
Luton are going to survive.
Everton are going down. There we go. Hope you
Bye,
got.
bye, bye.
Hope you got some sweet, sweet tingles off that one. Let's have a look if we have any other
I think
questions.
that might top the dirty draft picks.
It might do, mate. Bit of ASMR for the people. Oh, we are on our way to a FPL only fans at this rate. We've done ASMR, we've done dirty picks.
Twitter's gone, X is in.
Yeah. All we need now is just a low self-esteem and a lack of a father figure. So,
Well, I'm seeing all these podcasts being done. I saw one of this girl. I can't remember what her name was, and she was interviewing Drake, I think, in bed. So I reckon maybe we do this podcast from now on in a bath together.
wow, that escalated pretty quickly, didn't it? Blimey.
Well, I mean, like it seems like the way that we have been flirting pretty hard over the past couple of weeks. So it might just be the next make.
Well, who knows, mate? Who knows? Lots of flirting. Anyway, back to the FPL. Someone's asked, Colwell for 4.5. Is he worth it over going for Chilwell? Probably not.
Yeah.
Chilwell's going to get the attacking returns, but if you want to go for a Chelsea defender, Colwell's a good shout. I think that's the way to look at that.
Just depends on how fit Chilwell stays, really.
Yeah, definitely. It does look like the questions have died down a bit, so this is kind of the final round. I'll ding the bell. Any final questions, do get them in. Martinelli, a differential or no more a differential after the Jesus injury? I think he's potentially going to see a massive increase in ownership tonight. I think he was at around 13%, but now with that Jesus news breaking, I think a lot of people are going to switch to 2 Arsenal midfielders and have Martinelli in their teams.
Fair enough. I've, for some reason, decided to avoid both Martinelli and Saka for reasons even I am questioning sometimes. But I think you're right about the fact that Gabriel Jesus being injured will more than likely solidify Saka and Martinelli's starting places. I don't think their positions were really in jeopardy, though, to be honest, and that's why I would maybe raise the question of the likes of Trossard. And to be fair, if everyone's going for such a heavy midfield to start the season, it may even be worth having an Nketiah, just even if you can't fit him in the starting 11, just have him as your first sub, just in case. Because if he's going to start the season off, you never know, because he does pop up with the odd goal that can be quite important in a game.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Martinelli at the moment, at the time of this stream, is at 12.6% owned. That is quite low. That's going to shoot up. That is going to massively rocket up by the end of kind of next week, to be honest. Luis Diaz, thoughts? Thomas has asked about him.
I think he's a very good player to have in your team. I think he will start the season off. I think he'll. It just depends on his finishing, to be honest, because I don't know how that's going to cope. I feel like he's quite a similar player in the way that he plays as Mitoma is. Just quite nice on the eye, causes chaos, but it's whether he actually finishes the chances or whether he's going to be more of the guy that's going to lay the chances off for someone because of his trickery, or he's pulling players away to allow other players to score. So he may just be an influential player for Liverpool, but whether he's actually a player that you want in your fantasy team to score you points, I couldn't tell you to start with, to be honest. I think, forgive me, where's Gakpo on fantasy this season? Is he up front?
I believe so, yeah. I think he's a forward this year. 99% sure on that. Just gonna check.
Fair enough. Well, if it's a midfielder for Liverpool you're looking for, then he's probably the most attacking option after Salah.
He's forward.
Fair enough. But if it's any position for Liverpool, then I do think Gakpo is more likely to score more than Diaz is at the start of the season. But But yeah, he's not a bad player to have at all. I just think the only issue is maybe the fact that it's away to Chelsea, so I just don't know how. I just can't really call that game.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. Next question is from Michael. He asked, is Johnson the best 4.5 million goalkeeper? He's in my team, so I'm going to say yeah. Any 4.5 million goalkeepers who've caught your eye, Jake?
Well, no, mate, because for some reason my sub keeper's more expensive than your first choice keeper, so I think that says it. Uh, I think I saw someone at one point, but I must admit I can't actually remember off the top of my head who it was. I think he made a valid point with Areola because of his age and because of the fact that he is a proven goalkeeper. So maybe he'll take over from Fabianski to some extent. And of course, they have got European football, so maybe there'll be a bit of rotating there. It just depends on whether Areola gets the Premier League nod. But no, I think Johnson is probably the man for the 4.5 millions.
Yeah, agreed with that. Palace usually a very good defence as well. Very solid, especially with Roy at the helm. Luke, yep, go send your team to me on Twitter. It will be included in the next video after asking so many questions and basically being the backbone of this stream's kind of Q&A aspect to it, to be honest.
It's being the Sellers one.
Yeah. Big up, Luke. Big up, Top G. Go follow me on Twitter and I'll definitely do your team in the next draft. Right, this is the last question before me and Jake wrap up and go back to our very exciting lives.
We're back together.
Well, yeah, we do have the OnlyFans content to go make as well. Like, it's nearly bedtime. Last question. How do you guys feel about Saka to Martinelli to make up the funds for Chilwell? Personally, I wouldn't do it. I think Saka is the better option over Martinelli, and I don't think it's worth kind of sacrificing that to go and get Chilwell. What were you going to say?
I just had to say what you did there. You don't want to sacrifice.
Yeah. Did you like it? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually going to disagree with you for the first time, I think, in my life. Yeah.
Blimey, lad.
Jake, we've lost connection with Jake today. Yeah, no, I actually think you should go for it. I don't think. I guess it depends on the context of how shoddy your defense looks and how crucial it is you have Chilwell in. I think sounding like trying not to sound like a broken record. I do not know how that Chelsea Liverpool game will go. Previous meetings would suggest it could be goalless, but I would be so surprised if this one's goalless. So then, in that case, do you really want to put a Chelsea defender in so desperately? Then I'm not too sure. I think it's then whether you just want to have Martinelli in over Saka full stop just to save that money and bank it, just so you can maybe toy around with it in the future. I know Saka's the main man for Arsenal in that attack, especially with Jesus being injured. But I don't mind Martinelli being in there instead of Saka. I don't have either though, so I don't know if you want to listen to me or not, or listen to Tom's stubbornness over Saka. Either way works, but I think it can't harm you at the start of the season when you have no idea how things are going to go to have a little bit of money in the bank. And even if you don't bring Chilwell in, because of the difficulty of the game that they have, and it's hard to call whether they'll keep a clean sheet or if he'll make up the goal contributions to compensate for maybe conceding a goal against Liverpool. So it's not worth bringing him in for the first game week potentially. I don't know if it's worth maybe just having Martinelli over Saka just so that then next week, say Saka is worth the extra however much money, you've got that in the bank anyway, so you can just bring him back in. But if not, and Martinelli does well, then win-win because then you can invest that money elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. He said his backline is Gabriel, Estupinian and Porro at the moment. And he said he feels that Porro needs an upgrade. But I don't know about that. That's a pretty strong line as is, to be honest. So I think just stick with the Saka, stick with that backline and see how it gets on for kind of Ben Chilwell and the Chelsea defenders.
Yeah. Or if you want to save a potential sub and you're a bit worried about Saka, then just put Martinelli in. But I wouldn't touch that defence yet because if you do touch the defence and you put Martinelli in midfield and you put Chilwell in defence just to save that money and move it around, as soon as Saka does well first game week, then it's 2 transfers, isn't it, just to get him back?
Yeah, definitely. Right, that was our kind of updated draft. Well, it turned out to be a massive Q&A stream as well. Some really good questions in here tonight, mainly from the boy Luke. Thank you very much for contributing 99% of them, but other people as well. Michael coming in clutch with a few questions, other people as well dropping in and out the stream. We will be kind of on next week, next Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll put a tweet out when we're kind of free, and we'll do another one of these. We're going to review the kind of the start of our season, go through team, and answer as many questions as possible in the chat. Here's Lewis. Lewis has joined. Hello, Lewis. How you doing, mate? I'm not going to end the stream now. Lewis is here. Little bless him with his lol. Has he got any questions? Because the team he sent into the chat earlier was pretty dreadful, mate.
I think that's what he was lolling at, to be honest.
Yeah, he was fuming.
It was a shout. Oh,
I don't think
Lewis.
he's got any questions for us, bless him. But that was pretty much our stream. Jake, anything from you?
No, all good. Appreciate all the messages.
Yeah, likewise. Right, we will see you next week. Bye-bye.